This list was compiled as a result of many factors. To be a person on this list, you must have had a lasting impact on society or changed the way people think in some way. The people who were in contention were grouped into 4 main categories on an Excel document: religious figures, war leaders, inventors, and cultural impactors. Each person was ranked for influence in their individual group, which helped determine their importance overall. I then came up with my first preliminary draft on my spreadsheet and translated it onto a Word document. There has been a lot of editing since then, and I hope you enjoy the final presentation of the top 50 most influential people in the history of the world.
A shot on Elo. Good!
Now that we've defined how this list came about, let's get right to it, starting with numbers 41 through 50. Let's get started with number 50, Elvis Presley. Known mainly as the king of rock and roll, Elvis was influential to kids, teens, and adults all around the world. Singing singles like Blue Suede Shoes and Heartbreak Hotel, Elvis captivated huge crowds almost nightly. Arguably the most recognizable American artist ever, Elvis deserves his spot on the list for sure. Now we move to the next player on our list, number 48, Michael Jordan. It's important to note that, while he is the greatest basketball player of all time, that's not why he made the list. The Jordan brand, pioneered by himself, was the first brand to be characterized by a single player. Kids from all over could wear his shoes and be like Mike. MJ, as called by his fans, paved the way for a revolutionary way of advertising and marketing that greatly influences our lives today. Next is a Supreme Allied commander during World War II. Coming in at number 41, it's Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower was one of the greatest and most successful U.S. military generals. Responsible for Operation Overlord, or more commonly known as the D-Day invasion, Eisenhower proved his troops as a force to reckon with on the battlefield.
I'm quite positive we must give the order. I don't see how we can possibly do anything else but go.
The decision paid off, as the D-Day invasions were one of the biggest U.S. successes during the war. Assuming the post of president in 1953, Eisenhower fought communism in the space race against the Soviet Union. He also established the interstate highway system, allowing us to travel quicker throughout the country. Quite a resume for such an influential individual. Now let's take a look at the rest of the people in the 41 through 50 list not spotlighted. It's the 41 through 50 recap. The Mauryan Dynasty Emperor Ashoka comes in at number 46. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, makes the list at number 42. Let's keep on moving right along to the 31 through 40 list. Some people are more infamous than famous, and the next person is the perfect example. The elusive Osama bin Laden is at number 38. Bin Laden was the leader of the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda up until his death in 2011. He had great influence in the United States after the 9/11 attacks, which were the first major attacks on American soil since the Civil War. Airport security is forever changed by this to ensure maximum safety in the skies, and so we never have another event like this again. Bin Laden avoided the U.S. until 2011, when he was shot by U.S. soldiers in a surprise attack of his residential compound in Pakistan. He is easily the most wanted enemy of the U.S. in the 21st century. Moving up some more, at 35 is the Roman Emperor Constantine. Constantine is largely responsible for the spread of Christianity, as he issued the Edict of Milan in 313 CE. This document made Christians legal in the Roman Empire. During a previous battle, Constantine had a dream in which God had told him to paint the Christian symbol, Chi Rho, on his soldiers' shields. Even though they were outnumbered 2-1, they won the battle. We wouldn't have modern Roman Catholicism without Constantine, and Christianity wouldn't be the same without him. Now let's recap the other people in the 31 through 40 list. Two revolutionary philosophers, Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Voltaire, were at 40 and 36 respectively. Both of these philosophers helped create new ways of thinking that helped lead to the French Revolution. Rousseau emphasized the social contract, which is the idea that people consent to laws for protection, while Voltaire wanted free speech and religion, both of which ideas were challenged during the French Revolution. And Karl Marx just misses the top 30. Attributed as the creator of Marxism, or communism, Marx had a huge impact when Lenin and Stalin adopted his policies. Communism in Russia eventually led to the Cold War. And now we're inside the top 30. Our next stop is at number 28, Thomas Jefferson. The main author of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson essentially wrote the document that caused the War of Independence. Voicing many people's discontent with the British occupation of the colonies, it was the most important American document at the time. When Jefferson became the third president of the states in 1801, he oversaw the Louisiana Purchase. This significantly increased the size of the country and contributed to the American ideal of manifest destiny. Our country would be a very different place had Jefferson not been president. At number 26, we have Joan of Arc. A major influence during the 100 Years' War, she was born a peasant in Domremy, France. Joan gained prominence when she was sent on a relief mission to Orleans, which was under siege by the British at the time. During the period that she was with the army, they enjoyed great success. She was tried for war crimes after being captured by the English and was sentenced to death by burning. Joan's symbol has lived on infinitely since then. She was made a saint by the church and is considered heroine of France. She was an inspiration to all who seek their dreams coming true. Thomas Edison is next on the list at number 21. Known mainly for the invention of the light bulb, Edison had a major impact on our electronic technology today. While not the first person to create the electric bulb, Edison was the first to make it commercially practical. Edison's major breakthrough was discovering a carbon/bamboo filament that could burn for over 1,000 hours. Like his friend Henry Ford, Edison developed a way to market his product at an affordable rate. And now let's take a look at the 21 through 30 recap. Joseph Stalin comes in at number 27. Responsible for the deaths of over 20 million people, Stalin used force to crush his enemies. Known to never keep his promises, he affected people across the globe. And we can't forget Adam Smith, the author of The Wealth of Nations. In his book, he outlined the principles that have become what we know as capitalism. Considering that 80% of the world's countries are capitalist, we owe a great deal to his ideas. Capitalism, along with communism and fascism, were the main causes of the two biggest wars in the last 80 years. Next, we have Moses. At number 17, he is honored as Judaism's most important prophet, as well as a major prophet in both Christianity and Islam. While accounts of his life slightly differ depending upon which religious text you are looking at, they agree he was very important. Probably the most interesting account comes from the Hebrew Bible, in which Moses parts the Red Sea to lead the Canaanites in Exodus from Egypt. Knowing he is honored by over 50% of all the world's religions, it's safe to say he deserves a spot in the top 20. Moving up 2 more spots, we have Paul of Tarsus. Paul was a major reason for the early spread of Christianity. Turning from persecutor to prophet, Paul was a major influence on the early church. Author of over half the books in the New Testament of the Christian Bible, Paul was a major reason Christianity began to spread. His missionary journeys across the Roman Sea had a profound impact on Christianity's roots. Now we're in the home stretch. Let's take a look at the 11 through 20 recap. At number 18 is Ferdinand Magellan. Known as the first man to lead an expedition around the globe, he made great contributions to the term globalization. You can see a replica of his ship, the Victoria, in Chile today. Just missing the top 10, Alexander the Great comes in at number 11. Alexander was tutored by Aristotle as a child. He succeeded his father at the throne at the age of 20 and spent most of his time on a massive military conquest of northern Africa and Asia. He had one of the largest empires of the ancient world. Inside the top 10 now, let's take a look at number 7, Adolf Hitler. Hitler rose to power in a country that was very vulnerable. Amidst the worst depression known to Earth, Hitler promised the resurgence of the German people in huge rallies like this. A fascist dictator, Hitler broke every part of the Treaty of Versailles, including spanning the living space of his people. Through use of extreme nationalism, Hitler gained the support he needed to fuel the Nazi war machine. The most horrific of his crimes was undoubtedly the Holocaust, the slaughter of many innocent Jewish people whom Hitler blamed for all of Germany's problems. Hitler killed himself when the Allies were about to capture Berlin in 1945. He was the most feared man of the 20th century. And let's get a quick recap of the other people in the top 10. It was a battle between Stalin and Gutenberg for the coveted number 5 spot. Ultimately though, Stalin's invention of paper surpasses the printing press. After all, without the paper, what purpose would a printing press serve anyways? At number 4 is Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha. He grew up in northeast India and was of wealthy descent. When he left the comfort of his palace at age 29, he was appalled by all those who were suffering. He achieved enlightenment after meditating for a long period of time. He is the person behind the middle way and the Eightfold Path, both central in Buddhist teachings. He is the central figure in Buddhism, and many people are still Buddhist today. At number 3 is the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Muslims believe he was a messenger sent by God to help guide humanity. Born in Mecca and present-day Saudi Arabia, Muhammad received the holy text, the Quran, from God. Under the direction of God, Muhammad made public of his teachings, preaching across Arabia. At the time of his death, all of the tribes in the Arabian Peninsula had accepted Islam. Today, Islam is the second largest religion in the world. The Quran states that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. At number 2 is Jesus the Nazarene. Considered a prophet in multiple religions and a central figure in Christianity, he preached the good news of God in the early 1st century. During his journeys around Israel, Jesus healed lepers, challenged Pharisees, and taught many people to follow God, much like Muhammad. The Christian holiday of Easter revolves around the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. He essentially created the basis for the most popular current religion in the world. Christians today are encouraged to live by his example with sayings like, "What would Jesus do?" And finally, we arrive at the number 1 spot. The number 1 spot goes to Abraham. Known as the father of 3 religions, Abraham quite literally links Judaism, Christianity, and Islam together. Father to Ishmael and Isaac, Abraham helps bridge major gaps in our understanding of theology today. Both the Bible and the Quran tell similar stories of how Abraham was ordered to sacrifice one of his sons to God. In this way, we can see commonalities between multiple religions. While today's culture likes to make it seem like Islam and Christianity are almost opposites, Abraham is there to prove us wrong. Overall, Abraham was very influential in his time, but even more so now. We should all remember his example when we begin to judge others. He might share more than you realize.